Okay, because I don't want these up here to be so pronounced, I'm going to take my masking fluid removal. This is just a crepe eraser. You can use your fingers. It's just as easy to do it this way. And you don't have to take your masking fluid all off at one time. It's better if you do it gradually. Gives you time to plan a little bit. Just be sure it's off there. I am going to take it off the edges of the dome here because I don't want this harsh line. So we're going to have to soften that. I'm going to leave all this in here. Perhaps take that out. Actually, let's go ahead and try to take out just the masking fluid that's on the dome itself. If you remove too much, you can always put it back if you need to, like that. But we're finished with the background, so we could just take it all off if we wanted to. But I just want this to soften these edges a little bit here. So just peel it down to about there. That'll give us enough room to work. And just be sure there's not any left on the dome part itself. So because we don't want these harsh lines, first thing we're going to do is to go up over the blue again, but this time we're going to turn it upside down because we don't want to mess with this. And we're just going to take, first we're going to take our orange and we're just going to lightly go over these places and knock this back a little bit, so it's not so pronounced. Then we're going to go along this edge right here and soften that. Remember, that's our dark dome right there. Then we're going to blot out our brush and go back in with that brighter orange in here. Just to maintain that. And go up in here. Just kind of gently with the tip of your brush, just soften this edge right here. So that it doesn't stand out so much. Clean your brush, blot it off, go back into your ultramarine blue mixture. And because we want this to be a soft edge, you're going to find that these are going to mingle together. So gently just come right up to the edge. We're just going over this again, right to the edge. And that's going to soften the edge and knock all this back to where you see it, but it just doesn't stand out as being pure white. Okay, see how that works? And take your paper towel and clean up your edge. And now we're going to flip it around and take that ultramarine blue back down here again so we don't have a hard edge. And we still have the masking fluid down here, so we're good. Come in here. That's all we're going to do with these, just to knock them back a little bit. Now we're going to dry this again. Let's get a little more color down here. Taking off the masking fluid, and to make my students' life easier, I have just pulled out the burnt sienna because it's nice and dark, and it's actually the perfect color for this. So we're going to take that detail brush, and we're just going to start putting in some of these lines. And for my students, you aren't going to have as many lines as I have here. We're also going to add a little yellow and make a slightly different color. A lighter version just to put in some of these areas so that it's not all the same. So see, that was just with more of our yellow. So we'll put that in here and there. And we're basically just going to paint in all of these tendrils in those two colors. The thicker lines, you can do this beautiful yellow burnt sienna mix. Then you can come in with a little darker burnt sienna here and there. Just drop it in. So basically you're just painting in some of these tendrils and just vary the color a little bit so that they're not all the same. It's probably better to start actually on this side if you're right-handed. I tend to paint pretty much everywhere, but I know it's easier if you, it's easier not to drag your hand through it. We're just paying attention here to where these, mostly where they come in. And when you get to the very tip of the tendril, just lift your brush slightly and you'll see that you can make a finer line. So now I'm going to go back, now that we have the darker burnt sienna, I'm going back up in here. But I did want you to see how to make your own if you didn't have it. Just be sure you follow what the where the masking fluid was. And you can see some of these start out with the goldier color. And then they have the burnt sienna here and there. It's okay if a little of the white shows because it just makes it a little more glowy. Let's go back up here and just make these connect. Very tip of your brush. Just flow them into each other. So these things pretty much go everywhere. That's what makes this so interesting. Let's connect to that big one right there. A little more yellow here and there, just for variation. And see, because we did all that work before we ever got to this point, now we're just doing the detail. So just switch it up. Keep it varied with those two colors. You see they overlap. See, we're getting that kind of glowy look. So really it wouldn't be bad to put some of that glowier color up in here, just for more drama and interest. And notice how they curve out. Just want that V at the very top. That's important. Now these in the center where the light is hitting are a bit lighter, so we'll use that yellower mix. We're going to go back over this when we're finished and do a yellow on top of this just to pop this out some more. As a matter of fact, let's put a little more yellow in our mixture here, just to make some of this a little brighter. That's better, especially in this center area. And don't have too much paint on your brush. If you do, just roll your brush and it'll take some of that paint off. So just here and there, some more yellow. And if you go into the blue a little bit, don't worry, it won't mess it up. I love all these little squiggly marks that we make with the masking fluid, because it just gives it such an interesting look. Some of these we will hit just a little bit with that yellow. Okay, let's go in with some more burnt sienna here and there. I think we need some burnt sienna down in here. If you have too much yellow going on, just hit it here and there with a little burnt sienna, and that will take care of that. Just use the tip of your brush. Let's make this one darker. Some of these are much more pronounced than others, especially these over here for some reason. I'm going to have this many on yours because I'm going to simplify this for my students. So just go over the main ones. All right, now we lost a lot of our definition in there, but I'm not too worried about that. I am going to turn this upside down though and get that yellow back in there. And I'm going to go back to my larger brush for that. And I'm going in with that very watery yellow. And I'm just going to start right here and just go right over what I did. Gently, without moving the paint. Go into the burnt sienna a little bit. Get a little more orange in there. Go back in with a little ultramarine blue to make a darker dome on that. So this is called a unifying wash when you do this. It just brings it all together. So you see how much nicer that is. Okay. So now I'm happy with all of this, but I do need more of the blue in there. So I'm going to clean my palette. Now I want to go into these areas that were bluer and really punch those up. These are just finishing touches. Really want that blue. And don't be careful not to touch that yellow too much, because you're going to get a green, which is okay, but you don't want it too green. So just picking out some of these shapes. Could have let that dry a little bit longer before I did that. There's a little bit of blue just in here, but I'm just barely doing that. And if it's too much, just blot it off. It's getting a little green. I have to be careful there. We're going to let this totally dry. And then I'm probably going back over this one more time. Really want more blue right in here. Let's do that with a smaller brush. Just go in this edge right here. So that's bluer right here. There's a blue area up under here. See that little ruffly area right in there? That's blue. That's more interesting. All right, I think we're going to dry this, and then we are going to call this finished. Okay, as a finishing touch, I always take a moment and review my paintings to see if there are any corrections that need to be made. And the first thing I noticed was that these lines had gotten way too harsh right in here. If you notice, they fade out as they do connect, but they fade out behind here. So what I've done is just taken my brush and softened all this edge along here. And as a very last step, and that really helped to make it look more dimensional. And as a very last step, I'm going to go over the yellow again with the yellow, just to really punch this luminosity right here. And there you have it. We are going to call this one finished.